Hi everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be working on this Satsuki, and the specific variety is Korka. If you find the following content helpful, then you can thank me by clicking the thanks button just below the video. It's now autumn in South Africa, and autumn is the time that Satskis start to prepare for winter. During this time, the trees will stop actively growing and move over to a state of dormancy in preparation for the winter. I'm going to be looking at removing the old leaves. Some of them are a little bit sunburnt, thinning out areas where you can see there's a congestion of branches. We have multiple shoots coming out at a single point. And then you'll also find these branches emerging adventitiously from the trunk. Those can be removed. You might find those also coming out of the branches, like this example here, and that might actually contribute to the branch structure in spring when I do the proper styling. On the root system, you can see some shoots, just some suckers emerging from the trunk, and that can be removed. As usual, the best place to start on the tree when you do this kind of work is to start in the apex. This will mean that as you're removing leaves, then the leaves will fall, and so ultimately when you're finished with the tree, all the leaves will be at the bottom, so it makes cleaning a lot easier. I'm using a pair of defoliation shears to remove the leaves. It's certainly a time-saving tool that'll help you a lot, but if you don't have one, then you can of course use a pair of trimming scissors to remove the leaves instead. Start by removing the oldest leaves, which will be to the back of the shoot, and those leaves generally are not going to be functioning as well as the newest leaves towards the tip. And then also you can remove the leaves at the bottom of the bud. This will also just give you a slightly cleaner look to the foliage pad. When you find shoots like this, if they are unable to be used in the structure, you can prune them off using trimming scissors, but don't throw them away, just drop them in some water and you can use those as cutting material later. Part of the work that you need to do on these trees in autumn is to bring the profile back in line. And so if you find branches like this that have outgrown the profile, you can prune those off, once again keeping them as cutting material. You'll start to notice that the structure of the tree is a lot more open. This will allow better sun penetration as well as ventilation through the branches. The natural growing habit of Satskis is that they will form multiple buds at terminals. And so you should rather remove the excess buds and keeping 2 of them only. Try to consider the location of these buds in the pad and then select the ones that should be removed to allow place for other buds on other branchlets to develop. Where you find sucker-like growth emerging from the trunk, if it cannot be used to develop as a branch, it's best to remove it. Sometimes these branches also develop from your structural branches, and if you cannot use them to contribute to the structure, then it's best to remove those, as well as very weak branchlets that you might find that have been shaded out. Satskis flower abundantly in spring, representing a considerable drain on the resources of this tree. So it's best not to allow all of the buds to develop, where you have multiple flower buds at a single point, rather eliminate some of them. You can now see that the structure of the pads is far more open, and this will allow plenty of space for the flowers to develop properly in the spring. I removed this branch because it was obscuring some of the beautiful trunk, as well as growing over a foliage pad just below that of course would have interfered with the flowers on it. To make the cut, I used a branch cutter, and then I used a sharp grafting knife just to clean up the edge, and then sealed it with top gin sealer. I used a pair of angled tweezers to rake away the top layer of soil, which would have also removed the fine network of roots there and the accumulated organic fertilizers. You can use a brush to brush away the waste, but I prefer using a vacuum cleaner, as this will suck up all those fines. I like to use a pressure washer outside and thoroughly clean off the trunk. This removes any built up organic material, lichens and mosses, and it actually makes it a lot easier for new buds to emerge when the tree starts to grow post-flowering in late spring. As you can see, you don't need to take too much soil out. Probably about 2 to 3 centimeters should be adequate. And then you're going to backfill that with fresh kanuma. This is going to help your watering, making it easier, as well as promoting gaseous exchange in the soil. Kanuma is only slightly harder than perlite, so be very careful when tamping it down. I like to use a brush instead of a spatula or other implement. And then you can use a spraying bottle just to wet the soil, or you can take the tree outside and wet it. I will now put fresh fertilizer on the tree, which will be the final time that the tree will be fertilized this growing season. About halfway through autumn, the fertilizer will then be removed. In the peak of summer, this tree would have been watered up to 2 times a day, maybe even more if it was very windy and dry. But now in autumn, the demand for water will reduce, and so you need to adjust your watering schedule accordingly and probably reduce it to once every 2 or every 3 days. If you found that content helpful and you'd like to thank me for it, please do so now by clicking the thanks button just below the video.